In this video, I'm going to show you how to make 100K in your 20s. Now, if you're watching this, you probably just graduated, or maybe you've already been working some job that sucks, and you're probably thinking to yourself, how can I find something that's better? Maybe you want to get rich so you can get hot girls and drive a nice car. Maybe you just want to make enough money to travel with your friends and help your family. But either way, you probably realize that most traditional jobs aren't going to get you there. So in this video, I'm going to break things down as simply as possible to show you exactly how you can make 100K in your 20s. But first, I want to tell you what not to do so you can hopefully save yourself several years of wasted time. Most people in their 20s want to make 100K, but they end up wasting time trying the wrong things that never actually make them money. They chase things like passive income or crypto or sports or day trading or random side hustles that don't actually build them any skills. Now, don't get me wrong, there are people who are successful with every single one of these things listed. But if you look at the actual stats, the odds aren't exactly in your favor. For crypto trading, 70 to 90% lose money. For sports betting, as few as 3 to 5% are profitable in the long term. For day trading, that's only 1 to 3%. And for side hustles, the average person only makes about $891 per month. Of course, there are people who do way better than this, but I think it's better to focus on things where you have a better chance of being successful. When I look back at my own journey, none of the businesses I started were that difficult to succeed at. My first business was a website that I built and sold. My second business was a content business. And then my third business was an agency. And of course, all throughout that, I was also doing coaching and consulting along the way. Of course, I did have to work hard at the businesses that I was building, but I don't feel like I necessarily had to get that lucky in order to be somewhat successful. I don't know the exact numbers on how successful people are with websites and agencies and content businesses, but I guarantee you it's higher than 1 to 3%. So if you're going to invest your time, money, and effort, especially when you're young, into building a business or learning a skill, then I think it's better to focus on something where you have a decent chance of succeeding. The truth is, the only guaranteed way to get rich is by selling something that provides some sort of value. And the only way to get rich fast is if the thing that you're selling is expensive. How do I know this? Well, I've made 6 figures for several years now, and this is the same thing I see time and time again. Selling something expensive is hands down the best way to make a lot of money fast. And the best way to do this is by doing online consulting. Basically, you're going to decide on a skill or a service, package that into an offer that you can sell for a minimum of $1,000, ideally $3,000 or more, and then you're going to find a way to get leads, and then you're going to create a system that allows you to scale. Now the question is, how exactly do you do this? Well, first, you need to decide on what skill you're actually going to teach. And ideally, it needs to be something that you can sell for a decent amount of money. So if we break down the math, it's pretty simple. If you sell something for $1,000, you only need 8 to 10 clients per month. If you sell it for $2,500, you only need 3 to 4 clients per month. And if you sell it for $5,000, you only need 2 clients per month. This might seem unobtainable at first, but once you realize how valuable information is, then it starts to be a lot more clear about how you can hit these numbers. If you want to be able to make a significant amount of money, you need to sell something that solves a painful or valuable problem, ideally one that you've already solved for yourself. So, for example, if you've done any of these, you have a skill that you can sell. If you got into college, you could sell test prep coaching. If you're good at writing, you could do copywriting or marketing. If you built social media, you could teach people SMMA or content. If you're good with girls, you can coach people on dating. If you're athletic, you can coach people on fitness. If you're good at dancing, you can coach them on dancing. And if you had a side hustle, then you can coach them on the business of whatever your side hustle was. These are just a few examples, but you really should try to get creative here. The point I'm making is that it doesn't really matter what your skill is. If it's a problem that you've had to solve or it's something that you've had to work hard to learn, then other people will pay for the answer or other people will pay for you to teach them. Like, for example, for this side hustle business, I found this guy on Skool who's currently making $60,000 a month, so close to 700 grand a year, just by teaching people how to start their own pooper scooper business. This is a bit of an extreme example, but I picked this on purpose to really show you how creative you can get. There is currently almost 900 people paying to learn how to start their own pooper scooper business. So if these people can be that successful with this niche of a skill set, there's no reason why you can't do something that's similar. And even if you don't have any of these skills and you've never done a side hustle, there are other skills out there that you can easily learn fairly quickly, and then you can teach other people as well. So, for example, we have funnel building, Facebook or Instagram ads, sales, staffing and recruiting, video editing, AI automation or AI tools, web design, credit repair, affiliate marketing, and cold email. Even if you have absolutely zero skills, these are all high income skills that you can learn in about 30 days. You might not necessarily be an expert, but you can get pretty good at it if you dedicate yourself to it, and then you can also teach other people how to do the same. I think a lot of people have imposter syndrome where they feel like just because they aren't the absolute best in their field, that means they can't teach other people. But I promise you, this really isn't the case when it comes to anything. For example, you don't need to be a college professor to teach a third grader how to do math. And you don't need to be a professional football player to coach a football team. You just need to be better than the actual people that you're teaching. So even if you spend 30 days or 60 days or 90 days learning one of these skills and you're not completely like 100% the best, if you're better than a beginner, then you can still charge that beginner for helping them get to the level that you're currently at. Also, I think it can honestly kind of help you if you aren't necessarily some crazy expert, because it makes you more relatable to the people who are just starting out. Like if you can say, hey, I didn't know anything about funnels and I learned how to get my first client within 30 days. Well, that's a pretty good pitch for someone who wants to learn, but they feel like, it might be too hard for them. Again, these are just some examples of high income skills that you can learn quickly, but just like the other list, this is just meant to get you thinking and help give you some examples. There are plenty of other things out there that you can learn and then help teach to other people as well. Now, once you have your skill in mind, you need to move on to the next step, which is packaging it into an offer that actually gets people results. So when it comes to building an offer, you want to make it as irresistible as possible. This is going to be your actual program, your community, your course, your mentorship, or however you want to structure it. There's obviously a lot of ways that you can do this, but in general, you just want to find a way to make it very clear for people to understand, and you want to make it very easy for people to say yes to. You can do this with proof, you can do this with guarantees, you can do this by building up your own personal brand, but you just need to find some way to make the offer as irresistible as possible. Also, I like to say it's better to focus on selling the outcome rather than the actual details. So for example, if you sold a program on how to start a pressure washing side hustle, you could say something like, I'll teach you how to quit your job and replace your income in 30 days with a pressure washer or your money back. This right here is a really strong offer. It's simple for people to understand, and it's very easy to say yes to. If I'm someone who hates my job and I want to find a way to quit within the next 30 days, this makes it very, very clear and simple on how I can do that. Not only that, they make it easy to say yes because, hey, look, there's a money back guarantee if I don't do it, and it solves the exact problem that I'm looking for. Remember though, you want to focus on selling the outcomes. So notice how I didn't say, I'll teach you how to start a pressure washing business. I said, I'll teach you how to quit your job and replace your income in 30 days with a pressure washer or your money back. Just realized I didn't spell washer right. Whatever, you get the point. With this offer, I focused on the outcome. If you think about something like cars, for example, a mom buying a minivan doesn't care how fast it is. She doesn't care the 0 to 60 time. She doesn't care, how nice the seats are. All she cares about is it safe? Is it spacious? And does it have good fuel economy, right? That's all she really cares about. So when these car companies market minivans, you never see them focusing on the 0 to 60 time. Instead, they show a commercial with a happy family leaving a soccer game, and the whole family's jumping into the minivan, and it's super safe, and they show a close-up on the seatbelts because that's what people care about. They care about the outcome. They don't care about all the little details that make up whatever the offer is. Building the offer is pretty simple, but this is something that you want to make sure you get right, because if you don't have it right, then it makes your job a lot harder. And this leads us to the next step, which is finding the right ICP. ICP just means ideal client profile or ideal customer profile. Basically, it's the person that you're trying to sell it to. If you had a magic genie and you could wish for the perfect client, what would that client look like and who would they be? When a lot of people first start out, they try to sell to everyone because they have this scarcity mentality and they think the larger they make their market, then the better off that they'll be. But instead, I recommend that you be as clear as possible on who exactly it is that you're selling to. So for example, if you were a dating coach, you wouldn't want to be a dating coach for everyone. You would want to be a dating coach for men who are over 30 and want to find their wife and get married. Or if you were doing fitness coaching, you wouldn't want to do fitness coaching for everyone. You would want to do coaching for women who just had their first child and they want to get their body back in shape. These are very specific people, and by dialing in on it, it's going to make it much easier for you to sell your offer. The more niche that you get, the more authority that you gain because your service is tailored specifically to that specific person. If you think about this in a more common example, there's a reason why heart surgeons make more than family doctors. It's because they have a specialty. So you really want to work hard to figure out who your ideal client is. That way you can target them specifically. It makes it easier for you, it makes it easier for them, and it makes it easier for the business in general. Once you have your niche, you need to choose people who have the problem that you're trying to solve, are already spending money on it, and are easy to reach online. If they don't have these three things, then it's probably not worth targeting them. If someone doesn't have the problem that you solve, then it's going to be an uphill battle trying to convince them. And if they're not already spending money on it, then again, it's going to be hard for you to be the first person to get them to spend money on it. And lastly, if they're not easy to reach online, then it's going to be very difficult to actually build a business because there's just not enough clients out there. So for example, if you were doing lead gen offers, I would say target coaches and consultants. If you were doing social media or AI automation, I would say target local businesses. If you were doing health and fitness, I would say target busy professionals. And if you were doing skill or career coaching, you could target students. You need to start by crushing it in a very narrow, small niche, and then you can always expand as you go on. So once you get more experience, once you get more skill, once you get more authority, then you can always branch out into a more broad market. But when you start out, the best thing is to get as niche as possible. Now, the big question is, once you know what you're selling and you know who you're selling it to, how are you actually going to get leads? Well, I found the best way to get leads for free, and it's simply making organic content just like this. Organic content is easy to produce. It's free or very low cost, assuming you have like a phone or a laptop. It provides people with value, which is good for everyone. It builds trust, and it also has an incredibly low barrier to entry. You don't need to learn how to set up Ads Manager to post on YouTube. This method is a bit of a goldmine right now, and it can be done for literally any niche. So, for example, I found this dude 5 minutes before this video started. This dude, if I had to guess, is probably making between $30,000 to $50,000 per month, posting short, easy to make videos where he just teaches men over 40 how to get back into shape. A lot of these videos are barely getting a few thousand views, so you might assume that he's not making that much money. But the thing is, because he's monetizing by giving them a mentorship, he doesn't need very many views in order to be successful with this. These 2,000 people or 3,000 people that are watching his video are the exact person he's looking for. So even though he's getting less views, he's getting a much higher conversion rate than someone else who's probably getting, 50 or 100,000 views. Just to give another example, I also found this dude. Both of these guys, I've never seen their videos before. I just searched around, took 10 minutes, and I found these two channels that quickly. Again, this dude has a little bit more subscribers. His views are a little bit higher, but I'd be willing to bet he's making at least $30,000 to $100,000 per month simply off of his coaching offer. And these videos are very simple to make. It's literally just him sitting down talking in front of a camera the same way I'm doing right now. You don't need to be good at editing. You don't need to have some crazy team. All you have to do is know the knowledge that you're trying to teach and then make a few videos about it. I've personally done every single lead gen method out there, and organic content is by far my favorite, especially if you're younger. If you're younger, you have a natural understanding of content that older people don't. So while they all have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars on ads, you can make far more money than them with just uploading iPhone videos. You'll probably get way less leads in total, but the quality of your leads will be way better, which makes it much easier for your business. If someone went through and watched a ton of your videos, it's going to be a lot easier to sell to them than if it's some random person who was forced to watch a paid ad. Keep in mind, you do want to make sure you're maximizing your chances of actually getting a close, especially early on. Even though the leads that you're getting are going to be way better quality than the leads you would get from something like paid ads, you still want to make sure that you aren't wasting any of the few leads that you do get. When you're first starting out, that first $1,000 or $5,000 or even $10,000 can really make or break your business. So you want to make sure that you're really doing everything you can to close those first few leads. When I first started, I was only getting a couple of sales calls per month. So whenever I would mess up the sales call, it would hurt a lot more because that is when you need it the most. This is why it's important for you to actually learn some sales skills. You can definitely make some money without actually knowing sales, but learning sales skills is what will truly make your business successful in the long term. If you can't sell, then you'll never be able to scale. And unfortunately, most people have no idea how sales works when they're first starting out, and this is ultimately what causes them to fail. When I first started out, I honestly didn't like the idea of sales. In my mind, I thought sales was like trying to trick people or force them into buying something, and I really just didn't want to do that. What I found out though was that sales is just finding out what a person's problem is and if you can actually solve it. If the person actually has that problem and you actually have the solution, sales is really an easy thing to do. There's a lot that can go into sales, but I'm going to break it down into the absolute most simple parts. So the first thing you want to do is diagnose what their problem is. So what is their real pain? What are their issues? Then you need to know how to prescribe. So you need to be able to show them how your offer is what's going to solve their problem. Again, assuming that your offer can solve their problem. Then once you learn how to do this, all you need to do is close, which really just comes down to removing risks, handling objections, and ultimately getting them to say yes. The main thing I want to point out here though is that you don't need to convince people, you just need to clarify. If you find yourself trying to force someone into a close, then you probably went wrong somewhere down the line. Either they weren't a suitable lead and you never should have gotten them on the call in the first place, or they were a good lead and you just did a bad job at finding out their problem and explaining the solution. This is something that takes time to get good at, but even knowing just a few of these things will end up helping you a lot. If you've never done any sales whatsoever, I highly recommend learning some baseline level of sales skills. Otherwise, you're going to end up losing a lot of money simply because you don't know what you're doing. Now, once you've got your sales covered, the next thing you need to do is learn how to build a business. So this means knowing when to raise your prices, knowing how to automate lead flow, knowing how to hire delivery or help, and knowing how to add upsells or continuity. This is the difference between a business that makes you $1 to $5K per month and a business that makes you $30, $50, or even $100,000 per month. If you need help with anything that I talked about today, I personally coach people one-on-one, and if you click the link below, we can hop on a call to see if it makes sense. If not, no worries whatsoever. Either way, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one.